What a great kick.
Robin Chad Townsend plays on. Plays to the whistle. Kicks away for Valentine Holmes. Cronulla's in again.
Let's go. Yes, welcome back to another episode of the Talk of the Town podcast. My name is Chad Townsend, and as always, I'll be your host. And I'm very, very excited today. I've got a very special guest, someone who I used to look up to a lot as a youngster, and someone who I'm very, very grateful to call a friend of mine, and that is ex-Cronulla Sharks and St. George Dragons player, Jason Stevens. Welcome to the show, mate.
Oh, Chad, so good to be here, mate. Thanks for having us.
Nah, it's an absolute pleasure, mate. And like I said in the intro, mate, I was a Sharks fan when I was a kid. I grew up not far from the Oval, about 15 minutes. And, mate, you were one of the guys I used to look up to, mate.
Geez, that's kind of you, mate. You kind of forget that people, because I've been out of it, you forget who's watching.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You forget who's watching that people.
Because literally, when I think of Sharks, I think of obviously David Peachey, Matt Rogers, Jason Stevens. Like, you guys fall into that category. And when I was just frothing when I was a kid, it's phenomenal for me. To have you here, mate, it's a real pleasure. So thanks for coming on.
I wonder if you could go back like to the that kid on the hill that you were there watching us play, and like getting so close. If someone would have said to you, "Don't worry, mate, you're going to be the one who wins the comp."
Yeah.
Could you imagine, like, if someone in time could come back and say,
you're
the one who's going to do it? And it's like, because we got close so many times, like,
definitely,
real close. But
you guys were a part of probably up until recent years the most successful period of the club, weren't you?
Yeah, we did it because we were consistently knocking on the door for quite a number of years. Mm-hmm. But it's just it's just I love to like, because when I was younger, I used to get up real. My mum used to wake me and my brother up and watch the test matches from overseas.
Yep.
And they were playing in England, so obviously the time difference and so forth. And when I was over in England playing, like, I was about to get the kick-off, and I just had this moment where I was like, I saw myself as that young kid waking up and watching, and I was just thinking, I wonder who's watching now, what young kid is
doing that
is
now.
watching.
Yeah. And
then I got bashed by 1,000 palms. And I deserve it.
Well, mate, I know you've been out of the game for quite a while, and I do want to quickly take it back into your NRL career, because it is such an impressive career, 231 games for both St. George and Cronulla, 18 test matches for Australia, which is absolutely phenomenal. 8 origins for New South Wales. Like, what are some of your fondest memories from playing professional rugby league?
I think what comes to mind for me, there's a couple. There's one of my best mates, and one of the hardest front rowers I played with and against was Martin Lang, and I always wanted to put him in for a try, and one semi-final against Canterbury, one of their front rows came out of the line, and I put a short little pass through, and he went through, and mate, the joy that I experienced that day, I was just like
try assist.
Yeah, it was just like. And then probably the other time, obviously there was the England stuff playing over there, and I loved playing on Wembley and stuff like that.
On the tours and
all that.
Mm-hmm.
But there was another occasion where I actually had a really poor season because I was suspended 3 times in the same year, which was like, it was just a shocker. But my idol growing up was Brett Kenny from Parramatta, and my coaches throughout the years used to say, "Stop playing like an oversized Brett Kenny. You're not Brett Kenny." And I'm just like, I am Brett Kenny. And then one day I took an intercept from 40 out, and Hazem El Masri was catching me, and I just knew I was going to score. No offense to Hazem, he wasn't that quick.
Did you score?
I scored.
Oh my goodness!
I scored I took an intercept, just come out of the line. I don't know how I did it, but it was a really terrible year. I had the worst year of my career in '98. But that, to me, that day stood out because I scored, and Peach and Russ Richardson gave me a hug, and I just kept screaming out,
"Yeah,
I'm Kenny, I'm Kenny."
That's a classic. You just mentioned Martin Lang, and also another I guess, player that I resonate with, obviously being a young Sharks fan when I was growing up. And, when I think of like a 1-2 punch front row combination, you and Martin Lang, like the way he used to cart the ball up just dead and straight, like what did you think when you used to see him just carting it up straight? Did that sort of spur you on? It spurred
me on, yeah. Get it going, his fitness, honestly, they'd kick, and would be getting back on side, and he'd be like, Jay, I'm going to get number 2. I'm going to get number 2. And I'm like, I'm not even going to get back for number 4. You can get it. But he was that keen, you know what I mean? He was that, because I met Marty when he was about 15, training at the Sharks gym back in the day, who was run by Paul and Carol Graham. Mm-hmm. Paul Graham was a bodybuilder. He was friends to Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they really took Marty under his wing and trained him. And I remember meeting Marty, and he lived about 20 minutes away from the ground, and he'd run to the ground and he'd run back and do weights and flog himself. And I remember my mentor and manager, Harry, who ended up being Marty's manager, said, he's going to make it because he's keen. He's just that keen, you know what I mean? He built him because he was a bit of a rake. He wasn't big. He wasn't a big man, but he worked so hard. Yeah. And on the field, mate, it was nothing short of inspiring. And he wanted the physical impact. He loved it. He loved it because he wanted to get up and just go, that's your best shot.
When because when I was growing up, we used to play obviously football in the backyard and things like that. And then I just obviously as a young kid, you're trying to put on all this footwork, and then all of a sudden one of the boys would be like, "Oh, Martin Lang, just get the ball and just run dead straight." Yeah, because that's all I remember from big Martin Lang. He just would wind up off the back fence and challenge you to tackle him and run dead straight.
And you know what? And it was blokes like him, Tony Pulatula, even Benny Ross. That's why they won that grand final with Penrith against the Roosters when they were massive underdogs, because they just said, we're just gonna run straight and hard, and we're gonna beat them in the middle, and they did. Yeah. It was a close game. Don't get me wrong. Yep. There wasn't much in it, but they really took it to the Penrith forwards, and yeah, man, I look back with such fondness on Marty, because there were players that come to the end of their career, and there was still something left in the tank, mm-hmm. but honestly, a bloke like him just can be just so satisfied that he did everything he had, he gave. Yeah. And that's the most rewarding thing, I think, in any endeavour. If you just give everything you have.
100%. Give it your best shot. Yeah, no regrets.
Don't leave anything
I love that. All right, I want to touch on, mate, some of your funniest teammates who've been involved. You obviously played, the game for a number of years, mate. Would have come across a lot of players, a lot of people, a lot of different personalities. Is there some people or one person that kind of stands out who was absolutely funny? Because I know myself personally, there's some guys in our dressing sheds who are just absolute characters, hilarious. So is there anything that come to mind when I say that?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's Chris Beattie who was
another
front rower, and, and he used to get this really off fish and put it in the trainer's boot and in the trainer's under his hood and just let it rot.
Oh my goodness!
And he was brutal. Yeah, because we didn't like the trainer, but he was just
middle of pre-season. Mate, we're not doing that. I'm putting a dead fish in your car.
I'm like, this is mafia stuff, mate. I said, you don't need to go these extremes, but he's just big. His big beetroot face, because he was very pale, but he was a great player in himself. But yeah, and you actually wouldn't say this guy's a hilarious guy when you meet him. He was a really good guy, but he'd do pranks like that with just oh my gosh. And then obviously I was fortunate enough to be there with Matty Johns as well. And I remember my back was giving me a fair bit of trouble at one stage. And during one game, I literally fell to the ground and I said, Matty, I can't get up. So the ref stopped, and they brought on the trainers, and it was like, I can't move because I don't know, it was like a pinched nerve or something like that. And anyway, Matty said, I've got it, everyone, I've got it. And so he spat in his hands, he went, he rubbed them together, and then rubbed my back, and he goes, how is it now? And I was trying not to laugh, because it was hurting me. But he literally did this and went, how is it now? And I was just like, Oh, dude! Even in the midst of pressure, he was just a very, very funny man.
That's hilarious. And you just touched on Matty Johns, and I do want to bring up Matty because obviously the two of you had a pretty, I guess, public relationship sort of on the Footy Show, and me, again growing up, was obviously a massive fan of the Footy Show, and what I used to watch it religiously every week. And one thing I used to love watching was the segment of Trent The Flight Steward, where you were heavily involved. So how did this come apart? Like how did it grow to what it was?
Well, initially,
because this was when Matty was at the Sharks. Wasn't
yeah,
it?
that's right. That's right. Well, Ryan Girdler had a segment. Was it Our House? Or
Their
something
House?
Like that? Their House. That's it. Yeah, and so he came to my house, and not knowing, and my family was in on it, not knowing that Matty Johns was going to turn up as Trent The Flight Steward, and that because I was celibate, and he was going to offer a solution.
And that was the skit.
It was like, and we just kept going. And then from there, we just kept. Honestly, the Footy Show would come, and me and Matty would just go, let's just work off each other and do something. So we went down to Cronulla Beach and just like. We filmed it all, and they had some stuff planned, but most of it was both of us just throwing suggestions and just going. His comedic timing is, he's brilliant, But yeah, we had a lot of fun. But I genuinely had a lot of people like coming to me and say, "Hey man, like, the facade about Christianity. If you are gay, it's okay to come." And I was just like, "No, I'm not. This is just a skit." It looked real, apparently.
Because even now, like I still my mates will send me videos of highlights from the Footy Show, and there's Trent The Flight Steward and yourself, and I still laugh at it now. Like, at the time, were people like obviously it resonated with the Footy Show and the public, like they were loving it, like. Yeah,
but to be honest with you, it made it a little hard, credibility wise with the rep stuff. If I'm totally honest, because I used to get feedback.
That's fair enough.
From certain rep selectors about front rower, you're tinting your hair, you're pretending to be this guy's, it doesn't portray that. Honestly, it doesn't portray the real hard image, and some people just think you're a soft player and stuff like that, and. So it sort of was a mixed sort of. I just go, well, we're just having fun, and can't you do what you do on the field, and then have a bit of fun outside of it, and since then it's changed. A lot of players,
definitely,
work on their off field stuff. But at the time, probably it was a little bit tricky sometimes, where people would say to me, just can you calm it down a little bit, One of the toughest footballers ever was Ian Roberts.
Yeah.
One of the toughest ever.
Incredible.
So, incredible. Yep. Incredible, yeah. And I knocked him out. I just wanna,
when?
It was accidental.
Yeah.
And it was generally accidental when he was playing for North Queensland.
Yeah.
It was towards the end of his career, and I accidentally copped him high. And, have you ever seen a guy snore?
Yeah. Yep.
Mate,
it's not nice.
It's not nice. It's one of the most terrible feelings when you see a guy genuinely snoring deeply on the field. And I was like, that was the year I was suspended 3 times.
You thug.
Poor Ian. And then he got me back because he was on the judiciary.
Oh, jeez.
I took him out for a beer before. It didn't work, mate. It didn't work. Still got another 4 weeks.
And we've spoken about a number of front rowers, and you being obviously playing your whole career in the front row. Like, was weight ever something you struggled with? Yeah,
it was. I think I fluctuated, to be honest with you. I probably still do to this day. I'm trying to...
Mate, you're looking shape now.
I'm feeling all right. It's because I've got a baby.
On the go.
But I definitely there were some seasons where I look back and go, "Oh man, you were at least 5 kilos over there for sure."
Yep.
And but I we knew nothing back then about low carb.
Yeah.
Like, so when I was the amount of training we were doing, like especially if you ask gals about the stuff we did with Chris Anderson, it was definitely the hardest footy period physically of my life. Training. It was just they were going on fitness every day in the off season, multiple sessions because new techniques from the Institute of Science was saying train under fatigue every day. So, mate, I'll tell you, it was hard. It was good mentally for us, but yeah, I mean, I think I definitely, we knew nothing about low carb, so I was eating carbs like it was going out of fashion, but training heaps. So I never really shook a lot of the weight I probably could have, but actually wanting to eat more meat, but thinking, oh no, it's thyroid fat and stuff like that. Just didn't know. So
and it has come a long way since back then, hasn't it?
It's come such a long way. If I knew back then, honestly, but you know,
because even now, like there's front rowers in our squad who will struggle with weight and have to do extra training to try and get weight down, and then on the other side of the scale, there's young small fellas who are trying to put on weight who struggle to put on weight. So there's all different types of body shapes within a professional
there is
organisation.
I used to go for a with this Shannon Donato, who's now the CEO. Shouts, he was very, very good hooker. And we used to go for a run the day after the game to Boat Harbour and back. And with Noakesy would often come with us as well, just to help me try and keep the weight off. So
for those,
that was usually the day after a game, actually. So it was pretty
wow.
But just a good fat burner.
Noakesy, for everyone out there, is our yellow shirt trainer, and quite often you might see him banging the esky after we after we win a game.
He's great, man.
He's been around a long time.
What a great guy for the club.
Definitely, mate. He's been around a long time.
Yeah.
Well, I want to touch on today's game, and I guess, is there anything that you see in today's game that makes you think, geez, I'm happy that I'm not playing anymore?
I think like the game, it seems a lot more structured around that ruck area, and I love it when I see like front rowers like Fafita and other front rowers you got that can actually tip on and play a bit of footy.
Yep.
and pass, and because sometimes I just feel like the structure of the game is so tight, doesn't allow for free flowing footy.
Yep. And you're right, the structure, there is so much structure and game plan in today's, and even at the Sharks, like we've got structure, but then we also get cued on playing what's in front.
Play what you see. That's what Matty Johns was big on that.
Yeah.
Play what you see.
And that's what our coach John Morris has really been trying to push throughout so far. And we're in the middle of pre-season now. Yeah. And he's saying, boys, just play what you see. The shapes.
Yeah. Go in with the plan, but then play what you see. Yeah, that's right. But no, I think if I was to come back in time, I think physically I could still. I think it is harder for the big, genuine big man.
Less interchange.
But when I saw, honestly, hats off, when I saw Fafita play almost 80 minutes in a GF, the pace of a GF, I was just astounded.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Honestly, I was like, mate, I was 15, 20 minutes on, and then, mate, you got to get me off. And GF is like Origin, the pace of it.
Did they have unlimited interchanges back when
we went through seasons of it, mate. I'm so old that when I was playing with Saints, it was you'd play 21s, you might get called up to reserve grade on the bench, and then I'd sometimes get called up to first grade. So you're playing 3 games. I actually played 3 games.
Wow.
So you get 10 minutes in a reserve grade, 10, 15 minutes at the back end, and then another, that's old, man. I'm sorry. That's so But I went through seasons with because Super League had unlimited interchange and it all changed. It's changed over the years.
How was Super League for you?
Super League was. I mean, I've got a house on the water, so.
It was good.
Financially. But it was, and that's why I came to Cronulla. But actually, it was the transition of it was
because it was quite a big shake up. Hey, at the time,
it was huge. It was like with the Cronulla boys. They were like, I still remember stories of limos coming and only like half of the team being invited in the limos and the rest going, where he's going?
Wow.
But I wasn't at Cronulla, I was at Saints.
Yep.
And there was
that's crazy.
Yeah, there was myself, Gordon Tallis and Brownie and being targeted, and it was just it was pretty full on. It was just interesting times, eh? It was like going back and forth and who can. Oh, look, and in a way, I know it did in a way hurt the game, but I'm glad in a way it meant in the end that players were were getting paid better. And
exactly.
You know,
definitely.
Really, I think
players deserve to be paid whatever they can get, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I remember speaking to Laurie Daly, and he was going, Jace, he's going, no offence, but he's been playing Origin for years. He said, you know, the amount of money they were making from it was a pittance compared to what was being made in Origin.
Yep.
It says it's just about sharing the wealth of the game, and so you know, in the end, you know, it wasn't a bad thing.
And you sent me, when I put the podcast sort of notes towards you and what I thought would be some cool topics to talk about, and you sent me back this video from your Instagram. Now, explain to people out there what this video was and the story behind it.
Well, yeah, I was playing for Australia, and it was in our last Test match against. It was a try series against New Zealand, and so it was over there, and 3 Test matches, and it was 1-1, and this was the last deciding one, and I didn't get picked for the team, and
so you didn't play the first 2 games?
I did.
Yeah.
I did,
you played the first 2, but not the last one.
Yeah, I think I might have missed out on the first and played the second.
Yep.
And I remember when they were going to pick the third, Gordon Tallis and Wendell Saylor went to the coach and said, like, we want Jace in the front row, we want him starting.
Yeah.
And the coach, to be honest with you,
who was the coach?
He said, Chris Anderson.
Yeah.
He didn't have a big opinion of me, to be honest with you. And you know, because he didn't really know me that well as a player, and you know, I understand you get different perceptions of people, and so I wasn't picked in the last game. So I think Rodney Howe was the starting front row, and so if you're not picked, it's the last game of the year. I just said, that stuff, I'm just going to flog. So the day before, Billy Johnson, who's a notoriously cruel trainer in a good way, flogged all the players who weren't playing. And then the next morning, me and Russell Richardson went and did another session and said, let's just, because I didn't want to watch the game with energy. I wanted to be really tired because I was like, I hate, knowing I could have been out there, and I just wanted to be really stuffed. So I flogged myself in the morning. And then at 1:30, I got a call from Tony Ayub, who was the physio. He said, mate, you're starting. And I was like, what? He goes, what? He goes, yeah, Rodney Howe's knee's blown up and you're starting. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so what I showed you was a clip of a hit I put on Craig Smith.
It was a big hit.
And I just was like, when he put on that Aussie jersey, and it's just like, you don't care how tired you are, mate.
Yeah.
This is, it's a dream to play for your country. So you just lift, you know what I mean? You just lift. And we won. And Brett Kamali had a magnificent game, and I think Wendell scored in the last minute of that game. So we won the
Were you
try
tired
series.
on the field?
I was very tired, but at the end of it was really rewarding. And to Chris Anderson's credit, he said I shook my hand. He said, you proved me wrong.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that was very rewarding.
That
for
is
me.
cool.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
All right, I want to touch on probably the greatest Sharks player of all time, and that's Paul Gallen. And
self-proclaimed. no, he is, mate. He is. He's earned it.
He had a stellar career over the course of 20 years. Where back, he obviously came into first grade when you were still in the team.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
Talk to me about what Gal was like back when you first came into first grade.
Well, I first laid eyes on him as in. That sounds wrong, but I don't know. Sorry, I first saw Gals. He was in the opposite. He was in the training room in the reserve grade dressing room, and the opponent's dressing room. And he was young. He was in the 19s or whatever the lowest grade was there. And our trainer Steve Mill, who was instrumental in bringing him really to the Sharks. He said, "Come and have a look at this guy because that's the future." And he was doing a one-legged squat on those balls.
Wow.
Yeah, and he said that's the future, and I was like, because I was really weak in my ass. I was my like it's just all sloppy.
Yeah.
Oh, my glutes. Like Brad Fittler, I remember before Origin, he said to me, do you do any leg? He goes, I do. It's just I can't activate my glutes. He goes, because it's just so sloppy, Steve. He said, and you're single, and you want to get married.
Oh,
I was like, dude, you're bringing me down. Yeah. We're about to play Origin. But so that's when I first and then not too long, he really earned his way into first grade, and his first touch of the ball, he pretty much snaked me and said, I want the ball, and I just thought, got to give it to him. And I was so tired, man. I was like, I pretended I was upset, but I was tired, man. I was breathing, man.
I want to put it out there, like the mentality of Gow. So like for you, Jason Stevens, Australian front rower, Origin front rower, he's about to take a carry, and then all of a sudden this rookie, 19-year-old Paul Gallen, comes in and just moves and steps in front of the Australian front rower and takes your hit up off you.
Because you know what, it's the best thing ever. Because when I played my first Origin game, one of the front rowers, I was starting front rower, but they brought in Glenn Lazarus because someone got injured, and I was a bit intimidated because he was like, you know. And so when I wanted to take the ball, if he was there, I should have just said, "It's my ball, mate. It's my ball." I should have done that, but it's not that he didn't, he wasn't a hog or anything like that. It was just like I should have said, "It's my," and like Gals did, and just said, "Let's stuff it." And to be honest with that's really why you guys won that GF. You guys had that. You had those players that didn't have the. I know maybe it's a bit of arrogance in a good way. Do you know what I mean? Confidence and just like I don't care. I don't care. Like I don't care what anyone says. We're gonna win this comp, and it's like, like I don't care. Do you know what I mean? And that's
definitely.
That's why you had a team of those. He had some really magnificent players.
When the 2016 grand final, obviously, for myself, it was such a massive occasion. But talk me through your emotions on that day, because obviously you've got a long history at the Sharks, came so close, played in a few grand finals for the Sharks, didn't get quite over the line. We'd never won a competition. And then 2016, talk me through the grand final day for you.
Well, I was fortunate, firstly, but because it was sold out. But this TV host Tony Squires, who I used to do the show with back on the ABC, he was just a fantastic host and person. And he said, "Jace, I've got some tickets for you I can interview you before the game." And so I brought my sisters as well. And then I sat next to Dean Treaster, who brought his family from America. Yeah, cool. Do you know what I mean? Which, he's a multi-millionaire. He can do it.
Met Dino a few times in the sheds, actually, after the game.
Yeah, Devonhead. He's a great guy, mate. He's a great guy. He loves the Sharks. And then Matty Rogers was there. And to be honest, so I was looking at Matty when we won. He was just balling. Yeah. Him and his brother were balling because I know, like...
He was down the sheds after, actually.
Oh, was he? Yeah, I didn't get the invite. But, but no, mate. It was. I was extremely happy, but there's always a human part of you that goes, "I wish it would have been us."
For sure, definitely. That's understandable.
But at the same time, don't get me wrong. I was extremely happy, and I've got to say, especially for Gal, because of the intense scrutiny he was under at certain sections of his career. And, I was beyond, mate, beyond.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, mate. All right, well, I want to move on to post-football, your career, which is obviously, in more recent times for yourself. And one thing I love about you, Jace, is that you've had this phenomenal career, but you've then moved on to, career outside of rugby league, and you haven't let rugby league, I guess, define you as a person. Like, you've offered so much more to yourself. And firstly, like, you wrote a book. Talk me through the book.
I wrote a book here, Worth the Wait, and that was talks a bit about my change of heart towards relationships. Yep. Because in short, like I'd seen my mum and dad go through a very bad divorce, and my dad was pretty unfaithful actually, and he's passed away now. I sort of saw the pain that it can cause, and I really saw myself heading down that way. Yep. As a younger kid, I was actually, quite overweight, and so I couldn't attract the attention of any girls. Actually, one girl who I was obsessed with, actually, and we were like getting on like a house on fire. She said, "Oh, I would date you, but," and she looked at my body, honest to God, and I was just like, that rejection, man, can just like. Oh, and then there was another time. Damage. There was another time that I was hired to be the paddle pop line, right? So. Give out free ice creams. and so anyhow, I noticed a girl from another school, and I introduced myself, but I have to have the thing on the whole time. Yeah, right. And we're getting along like a house on fire. I'm talking for hours. Like, I'm giving them free. That was the job, paddle pops and so forth. And we're getting along so well. And then when I took off my thing, the headpiece, her face dropped, and I'll never forget. I was just like, man,
Poor fella.
I was just like, what's going on? So I really struggled to actually, attract the attention of women. And then when footy came, it sort of things began to change, and I really took advantage of that. And I didn't treat girls well.
Just change your perspective on a few things. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't treat well. I was sort of, to be honest, I was becoming like my dad, and I remember speaking to Brad Mackay, who was I don't know if you know Brad, but Origin, everything. He did it all. And same junior club, and just started. He was a Christian guy, and I started telling him about some of the frustrations. I never had good relationships, and he said, "Oh, I'll come to a Bible study." And I said, "Oh, well, what do we do? Read the Bible?"
Yeah.
He goes, "Actually, that's pretty much what we do." What are we going to do? Read the Bible, bro? Yeah. So we do that. But it was really good. I started to see a different part of God, and because I always went to church, but I just didn't connect really on a relationship level with God, which is what it's all about. Car, because there's a saying, that's what it's all about. There's a saying that you can park yourself in a garage. It doesn't make you a car, and it's the same. You can go inside a church. Doesn't mean you've got a relationship with God. There's so many people do it. You just sit there, and that's what I was doing. So that book was really about that, and about how I decided to actually say I wanted to save sex for marriage, because I saw that was God's way, and which I thought was completely outdated and irrelevant. But if there's anything I know about faith and about God, it's that he knows the human heart better, and I know than anyone. And I know times have changed, but really the human heart has never changed. It never will change. Our wants, our needs, how we need acceptance and and love, and so that's what that book was about.
I want to know just quickly, if you've seen some of the boys after games, how they come together from opposition fields and they have a prayer. As a proud Christian man, like, how does that make you feel to see the boys come together?
I think it's fantastic that they can do that. And I think there's guys really who've taken the baton, and I think there was, like, when I was at the Sharks, it was myself, Matt Rogers, and my brother Paul and Jeff Bell, and we would huddle and do that. But then to see it amongst different teams, like blokes like Tim Manor really were instrumental in doing that, and he was such a sort of a pioneer with that. And it does warm your heart, because at the end of the day, it's a game.
Definitely.
And there's other things there are things that are eternal that we believe are important.
Yeah, awesome. Back on post football. So when you retired, did you have something you were going to fall into straight away? Did you know what you were going to do, or were you kind of up in the air? Like, talk me through.
It's funny because I was on the Footy Show. I had a contract with the Footy Show. I had for several years. I was doing the entertainment reporting and doing bits and pieces, and I was really loving it. And all signs were pointing to they were going to extend my contract. The EP, the show, Glenn Pallister, was really warm to me and loved what I was doing. And then, in the last show, Peter Sterling said to me, he said, "You're about to go through a very hard time." And I was like, "What's he talking about? Like, about to walk into another contract with you guys?" And And he was actually absolutely right, because what happened was the EP got let go. They brought in a new one, and they didn't want any more entertainment. They just wanted pure footy talk. Yeah. So I was actually left without a job once I, even though I've got a Comets degree, and I couldn't see myself going back to accounting, and I was left really, really, to be honest with you, searching for what was the next thing to do, and it was it was quite a soul crushing and humbling time, which lasted, I'll be honest, several years.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can't imagine it being easy for any professional sportsman to leave, the job that's been their life for a number of years. Yeah, well,
because I mean, at least because entertainment, it's just so fickle. Yep. Like it's so, you can be there the favour of the day one, and then the next, I couldn't get it. To be honest with you, this is what happened. I couldn't get an interview with the new EP of the Footy Show. Wow. I've been going there, I've been on the show for over 6-7 years, but contract-wise, I was there for a number of years. So, I'm walking in and out of Channel 9 studio all the time. I know everyone there. Yep. And then not being able to get an interview that the very next year was really humbling. And Gals called me and said, come sit with us for the first game of the year.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, I feel a bit funny, because Benny Ross was the big signing, and I didn't want to just let him be. He goes, no, mate, come sit with us. I want to, love you to still be part of the club and that. No.
Yeah.
And so I went and sat next to him, and this young kid came with a jersey and handed it to Gals, and he signed it, and then he handed it to me, and the young kid took it off me and said, who are you?
Wow.
And I was just like, there's something there was a deeper message what was going on with my life, Chad. And for me, you talked about identity, but to be honest, my identity was found too much in rugby league.
Yep.
And it's only when something's removed that you can actually step back and go, no, actually, I am worth more than what I do on the field. I'm worth more than my job. I'm worth more than even the relationship. I mean, I'm actually, the value that I have is. It's not related to that, but geez, a painful period I went through. Honestly, it took me a long time to actually try and find my feet, and during that time, I started screenwriting, and trying to enter into that world of film, which I felt really strongly about. All of a sudden, it didn't, not at all when I was playing, but all of a sudden, but I actually naively thought in 2006 I started screenwriting, and I went and did courses, and I did many courses, and I thought I should be able to get a film up maybe in a couple of years, next year, maybe even if I'm lucky next year.
Yeah.
It's like 2017, I got my first film up. It's like the road is always longer, The stretch.
Yeah.
The stretch, no matter what like if you, especially to transition into a completely new field.
Definitely.
The stretch. But the stretch, it draws everything out of you in terms of, it draws the real motive for while you're doing stuff. It draws commitment out of you, and like it makes you stronger on the inside,
When you touched on, I guess, identity and not being a professional rugby league player anymore, and then all of a sudden coming out and kids sort of not recognising you and things like that. And I think that's why, it's so important for players these days to ensure that they've got hobbies, interests, studying, pushing towards a plan for when they retire. Because like I said about yourself before, like the career you've had has been absolutely phenomenal, but now you've moved into a completely different career, and you have not let rugby league, identify you as a person. Like, you're more than a rugby league player, and that's what I love about you. And,
very kind of you,
obviously, screenwriting and falling into another passion. And that led, I guess, to Chasing Comets.
That's right.
Your first film. So talk me through that.
Yeah, to write and produce was like
phenomenal, mate.
It was. Thanks for going to see it.
Phenomenal.
By the way. It's very
phenomenal.
We I did Dancing with the Stars one year, and I finished last, which means I got kicked out first. But
front rowers, mate. Don't have good footwork.
But and I met a few actors when I was on there, and there was a lot of over the years just actually interviewing with my job in the Footy Show. I got to meet a lot of actors, and like the first interview I ever did was like with The Rock, and they literally called me up at 10 o'clock and said, "Can you get to the Sheridan on the Park by 12?" I said, "Yes." "What for?" They said, "Interview The Rock." I said, "For what?" Because you had to have watched the movie. That was a prerequisite. So I was winging it, but geez, we had so much fun, man. He was such a generous guy. But with the film stuff, mate. To be honest, I didn't know how to produce a film.
Yeah, how does that
I didn't know.
How does that come about?
I took that many producers out for dinner. They all want dinner. Yep. They won't do a coffee.
They want dinner. They want dinner. That's funny.
And you get maybe one single piece of advice, and in the end, I was like, I can't afford to keep doing this. Because I was trying to get a producer to help me do it.
Yep.
And in the end, it just became clear to me that you do it.
Yeah.
You do it. I remember, my wife said, "You do it. You can do it." And my mum said, "I know you can do it."
That's awesome.
She said, "Really, you've been, my mum's been a producer her whole life. Like, she produced 4 kids, one with a severe disability, by herself because my dad left. She produced. She showed me how to make things out of nothing, and when you don't have nothing, find something, and that's really producing. But I was, there were some great people like Isabel Lucas came on board. Like, I've been such a fan. Like, to be honest with you, it's so funny how I met her many years ago when I was driving behind. This is how life works. I was driving behind, not knowing anything, just driving in the city, and I saw this car swipe this car in front of us, and so we got out with our friend, and it was her. She wasn't known. She'd just come to Sydney for home and away.
Yep.
And we met, and like we stayed with her till you know
People
came
to the scene,
and so forth, and obviously because she was a glamour, it was easy to stay. If it was you, I might have just like, you're right, mate. All right, see you,
buddy.
But yeah. So who would have known? Like that was over 20 years ago. That she would be in my film.
Yeah, wow.
That's how we met. I know life's funny, eh?
Wow.
Like that.
And how long did the script take you to write? Like a number of years, or
that was my last script. I've actually, to be honest, I've got even stronger scripts that are in the waiting.
Yeah.
And that was the very last one that I did. And so it's probably refining. It was probably, I think if someone said to me now, I think I could knock over a decent script in about 3 or 4 months now. Yep. I could do that, but probably that one was about a year. And so I've got about 9 scripts ready to go into the marketplace. Most are sort of international. One though is not. It's a war film about Z Unit, the Australia's first commandos back in World War II. Crazy story. A guy, actually, I optioned a book from a guy who lives around the corner from you who just recently passed away. But these guys were like the heroes of heroes, man. Z Unit. Not many young people know about them. Not many people know about them. But they were the most selfless heroes. They had to sign a contract to say they would not say where they had been, what unit they were in, what they did for 30 years after the war. Wow. They couldn't tell anyone.
Jeez.
And I'm talking, this guy witnessed 7 of his mates, some decapitated. He saw it all, man, and it's just like, and he survived on this island. It's a crazy story. So there's, film has a real role in society. That's to be honest, Chad, that's why I got into it, because I think stories have the power to move people, to make people laugh, to maybe challenge their thinking and inspire. I know for me that's what it is for me.
Definitely.
So that's why I wanted to be in that space.
So, you just touched on, I guess, chasing comets, especially based on a true story of yourself, kinda, yeah. Kinda. But then, do your scripts, you just touched on the commando one, is it your experiences through life, or do you get, ideas from other places?
Yeah, I have optioned a fair few true stories. I have.
Yep. Experiences.
Yeah, I have. Like one of the other ones I've optioned is a true story set in Bulgaria about how Bulgaria became the only nation aligned with Hitler as part of their efforts in World War II to actually stand up to Hitler and say we're not going to deport any of our Jews. They were the only country who did that. The King Boris, his name was. And I find it fascinating because he confronted Hitler and stood up to Hitler, and then within a few weeks he was dead, poisoned.
Yeah. Wow.
But Bulgaria became the only nation that did not deport one Jew to Auschwitz. It's just amazing. So I've got a number of true stories, but I've also got rom-coms, man, that I've written that really just flow from what you know about life.
You are quite funny.
And I hope so. no one's taken it yet, but it'll happen. You watch. We'll be here one day, Chad, talking about this. It's called Cupid.
Yeah.
And it's based on the angel of love becoming cynical with mankind. Right. The fictitious angel of love, he's setting them up. And
Cupid,
every time they sets them up, they break up. Sets them up, they break up. And he goes, well, if you don't care, then stuff is all that. I don't care. So, he's in a shooting spree and just setting up anyone, and he's lost faith in love, and it's his story of redemption. And so I love rom-coms as well. So yeah, I've got quite a mixture actually.
Yeah, awesome. All right, mate. I want to touch on this topic and quite a serious one. You and your lovely wife Beck.
And anyone steal that idea, by the way?
You and your lovely wife Beck have just had your first child, a little boy named Presley.
Yeah.
So he's 9 months now. How's he going, mate? How has Presley changed your guys' life?
Well, firstly, I named Presley because I was born on Elvis's birthday.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, on the 8th of January. I've always been a big
I'm on
Elvis
10th.
fan.
I'm 10th of January.
You're the 10th.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So no, because Yeah, and so Presley, obviously the name.
I love it.
I love it.
I love it.
And mate, to be honest, it's been so awesome. I've been honest, I've never done. Everyone said to me, "Oh, you don't know what you're in for," and I was like, "Please." There's millions of kids born every day. I said,
exactly.
I played for Australia. You know what I mean? I'm sure I could. Mate,
It's
this
fine.
has been the hardest. It's been the hardest thing as well as the most rewarding because he had silent reflux and it took a long time to diagnose.
Yeah, well.
And then just the whole not sleeping, like literally he's 9 months now. It's only in the last 3 weeks that he has started to sleep, and so we were up like 3 or 4 times a night feeding, and that's both of us because unfortunately my wife's got a bit of a back condition, and so she can't pick him up. So it's been, mate, without sleep, sleep deprivation, mate. It's just it's like him.
Yeah,
it's just crazy how I'm glad I didn't do it when I was playing, mate. I would have been a big. How you guys do it? Hats off to you.
Mate, I got a good wife, mate.
I know you have.
I've got a great.
You've got a great wife.
I got a great wife.
You have. But no, it's so good, man. I was like, I got some news the other day in one of my projects, which was getting so close to the line with a very big company. They passed on it in the end, and this is like 6 months going back and forth, and you can't help but get your hopes up.
Yep.
And I was pretty bummed about it because I got the email like at 12 o'clock at night. And all I did was I just said, you know what? And I just took the phone and just started looking at photos of him.
Yeah.
And I just, with the joy on my face, I just was like, you know.
Definitely. Well, mate, I want to move on to the next one. And it's a question I like to ask a lot of the people who come on the podcast, and it's about reading. Like, do you read books?
I do, but I've actually moved in more into podcasts, to be honest with you.
Yeah, cool. What are some of your favourite podcasts?
There's a few screenwriting ones that people or filmmaking ones.
Cool.
Which wouldn't be of interest, but there's a really good one by a leadership one by John Maxwell. His name is. He's sold like over tens of millions of books around the world, and it's on leadership and how to improve your relationships.
Yeah, beautiful.
And boundaries and just life skills, but really generous. He's a really generous man, and really, he's built a great empire. So I'm always trying to learn. What about yourself?
Yeah, mate, I listen to a number of podcasts. I love reading books as well, and I've put it out there on the podcast before. I probably didn't, like, all through school and everything as I was growing up, reading wasn't for me. I wanted to be outside, playing footy, riding bikes. Yeah, getting a tan.
Sorry, mate.
I'm not that tanned.
I know, that's why you could really do with a spray, but that's another story.
The boy at training, now we're in the middle of preset. I'm lathering up with sunscreen everywhere, and younger kids are like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Mate, been playing in the NRL for 10 years. Like, mate, I'm telling you, when you get to my age, you're going to want to put sunscreen on."
Well, so, I got fined one year for wearing glasses because we used to run outside for hours.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, guys, I can't. The glare is killing me.
I've actually thought to myself, I would love to wear glasses.
Why can't we wear glasses
during pre-season when we're running? Like, just when
we're running,
runs.
just senseless, like doing laps and laps and laps and laps. Like I was like, it was just crazy, Anyhow, I digress.
But yeah, I mean, podcasts, like, I love listening to, there's a few guys like Tim Ferriss, runs a really good podcast. Gary Vaynerchuk, on, like, I guess, branding and things like that.
Yeah, right.
How to build, like, a brand for yourself, regardless of whether you're a professional athlete, you're a plumber, you're a screenwriter, you're whatever your job is.
Yeah.
Then this my last podcast that I really like listening to is Jocko Willink. Now, he's a Navy SEAL, but he's the guy who trains the Navy SEALs. So spent a number of years in the SEALs. He's got a few really nice books out as well. One called Extreme Ownership, and basically just about taking accountability for your whole life. Where you are at in your life today is a result of your decisions throughout your whole life, and how to be more accountable for yourself, and how do you get yourself out of a situation, how to become better, more accountable, live a more accountable life, which will obviously lead to better opportunities professionally. Yeah. So there's
it's so good, especially for men, like to
definitely
find men that you can share stuff with and be
definitely take a
accountable
lot
to.
off, and I love that.
Don't you reckon?
I love that.
I think because in the footy environment, like it's so good. You laugh. You always laugh. At them. Always laugh.
There's so much banter going on.
So much. It's crazy. I used to love like having the shower, and I never brought a towel, so I'd always steal someone's and do the old, and then just goes, "It's yours."
Yeah,
and
there's plenty of that going on. Don't worry
about
that.
Man. It's the best. But at the same time, you've got to find a place where you can get real with some guys
and have a more in-depth conversation.
Yeah. Just talk about, and especially if things, there's so much talk about mental health, but just
for sure.
I think men just being there to encourage men and
Definitely.
making sure that we can actually, if you are not feeling well, just talk to me and humble yourself and let me know you're not doing well. And
I love
so
that.
forth.
Yeah,
you reckon? I think it's a really good thing.
Definitely for sure.
I think you bring so much of that, Chad, to the club. The club really needs leaders, like yourself. They really do.
Yeah,
leadership is everything.
It is, mate. And I think I've, as when I was a young kid coming to first grade, and I think to myself now, obviously being, in the NRL, next year will be my 10th year, and I think to myself, what's a kid who's just come into the NRL like? He's got so much in front of him. Like there was a kid, and I'm not going to say his name, yesterday at training, he made 2 errors, and he was in my side, and he put our team under a lot of pressure. But the second error he made wasn't far after the first one, and he was devastated. His head was down, he was upset, and his body language was terrible. And anyway, we defended the set, got away with it, and then he set up a try, and we scored. And we had a break, went over to the drinks, and I went over to him. I said, "Mate, don't you let me ever see you drop your head ever again." And looked at me dead in the eye. And I said, "Mate, I'm being serious. Like, I don't want to see that body language. We all make mistakes. We all make errors. Like, you just got to move on. What's the next job, mate? You've come, but you move on from that, and you set up a try for our team. Like,
That's right.
It's so important that
that's life.
As that, definitely.
Don't you reckon that's life?
100%.
Like if you're trying to be a better husband or a better partner,
for sure.
Like you make a mistake.
Yep.
No heads down.
Yep.
Like because this book I was reading said about the key with experience is not like because there are a lot of people who are experienced but they never actually grow. And he said you got to reevaluate. You always got to evaluate your life and evaluate your experiences and be accountable for your. Do you know what I mean? Because that's how you grow.
Yeah,
that's how you grow.
Definitely.
If you actually, how am I doing in this? How am I doing in this area? Even with your wife, like you say, how am I doing? Because sometimes I have a habit of like. I can be sometimes a bit dismissive or something, and sometimes I ask my wife if I've improved in that area and so forth, and because when something's like burning me, like I just like want to shut down a bit, like you know what I mean. So it's good. It's good to be out like if you can grow on the inside, everything around your world grows. Yeah, every area of your life grows.
Sure, I love that. All right, mate, move on to the last little bit here. And this is a game I play with actually the big fella. I had Aaron Woods on last week, front row in the front row club. Pardon me, excuse me. He's in our current front row. And I'll say a word or phrase, and you say the first thing that comes to your mind, okay? The first one is front rowers.
Beautiful.
It's
too much.
Halfbacks.
Glory getters.
Glory getters, yes. All right, next one. Wingers.
Who?
Don't worry, those jokes are still going around today. Some people say wingers aren't real people. Coffee.
Can't live without.
What do you drink? What's your coffee?
Oh, just because I'm trying to lose some kilos, I'm just doing long blacks.
Yeah, right.
That's hard, man. That's been hard. I'm dying to put a bit of milk in there. Yeah. What do you drink?
I drink flat white.
Flat white, yeah. I'm usually strong flat white.
Yeah.
But, once you have long blacks, you go back to a flat white. It tastes like a milkshake.
Yeah, right.
I'm serious.
See, I don't know if I could have a long black. I think it would just go straight through me.
Yeah, I mean, it's not for the weak-hearted, I'll tell you that.
I've got no doubt. We'll see you and Beck down at Grind soon anyway. All right, next one. Presley.
The best.
Awesome. And the next one, actors.
Hardworking.
Hardworking.
Yeah.
Okay, next one, movies.
Inspiring.
And the last one is Trent the Flight Steward.
Sexy. See, that's why I was accused of all that stuff.
I love that. Well, Jason, mate, thank you so much for coming on today,
you've inspired me. I'm going to start my own podcast.
You should, mate.
I love interviewing people. I think you're
mate.
very good at it, by the way. And I love someone said to me once, like, you know, no one's going to come knocking at your door. Like, you create the door for them to knock on.
Yeah.
And like that's what you've done.
I appreciate
with
that,
your whole
mate.
career, to be
thanks,
honest
mate.
with you.
Appreciate
You've
that.
created the door, and now everyone's knocked on it.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Well, again, thanks so much for coming on. I really
Pleasure,
appreciate
man.
your time.
Thanks so much, Jay.
And thank you, everyone, for listening, guys. Make sure if you enjoyed the episode to subscribe on Spotify and iTunes. And you can also watch on YouTube as well. We'll see you next time.